Yes, the bookshelves are finally finished, but we're not here today to talk about just books. We are here today for another book versus movie video. Welcome back, or if you are new here, welcome. My name is Katrina and I make bookish content here on this channel every week, and then movie reviews or book to movie content just like this one at the weekend. I will leave a playlist of my recent spoiler-free movie reviews linked up above in case you have missed any, and I will go ahead and leave my book versus movie playlist linked up for you in a moment, and then in the end screen. Yes, I understand when I am making a book versus movie video, that's when the author signs over the rights to their work. The movie company or the TV company can do what they want with it, change the name, change the characters, change the plot. However, I like watching these TV shows or movies and reading the book and then bringing the comparison to you here, and you seem to like it as well. So, Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. Can I start off by saying that this was such a lovely film? I did consider doing a standalone movie review of this one because my mum and I went to see it together. It's a great mother-daughter watching film, and we just came out of the cinema both going, oh, that was so positive and uplifting and feel good. We literally feel good after watching the film. Some people could go into it and think, oh, that was really cheesy, or some people could go into it and think, oh, that was just like not believable. However, it's not in that hallmarky way of like cheesiness and this is disbelief in real life. It is so feel good and so lovely, and you just come out of it going, oh, I'm so glad I watched that. I'm so glad that happened. I'm so glad that happened to Mrs. Harris. And yeah, so in terms of the feel good factor, I definitely think that the movie had a bigger feel good factor than the book, just because of all the colours and all the lights and all the fabrics and the adventure and the being in a different city for Mrs. Harris, of it all. So yes, as a movie review, yes, you should pay your cinema going money to go and see this one, because it's a lovely film and it's a feel good film, and we could all use some more feel good in our lives right now. As a comparison, the feel good aspect definitely came out more in the film than it did in the book. So let's go sort of a play by play comparison now as a general feel good factor instead. So the book itself does start in a slightly different place than the film does. We see Mrs. Harris a little bit earlier on. Obviously, generally when you're reading a book, it goes into more detail than the film does. However, we sort of just start a little bit earlier in the book than we do in the film. So we get a little bit more of a background to Mrs. Harris and her lifestyle and her job and her motivation for wanting this Dior dress. Again, this is going to be spoiler free, but these things are all in the movie trailer, so I'm assuming that you've seen the movie trailer and are just wanting to go into this completely sight unseen. So yeah, we get a little bit more of her background and her motivation in the book, whereas we meet her a little bit further along in the movie. However, we still get to know a lot about her because we catch up with her on her kind of like waking, to her day to day, to her after work, to her friendship, to her being a widow and staying at home, and yeah, how she makes her money and how she saves her money. So again, her journey to saving up to be able to go to Paris and afford this Dior dress is definitely detailed a little more in the book, and so you get a bit more sympathy with her in the book because you see what she goes through to scrimp and save for this dress. However, I feel like she's portrayed to be a slightly more likable character in the film than she is in the book. In the book, you could see how the character of Mrs. Harris would rub people up the wrong way. She does seem to think that she knows it all because she's a widow, she's been around, she's working hard, she's in and out of other people's houses, and she often will kind of cut people off and say, oh no dear, like don't do it like that. In the film she does do that occasionally, but it's in a more likable way, in that she goes into everyone's business and helps them, and she goes into everyone's business and makes life better for them. And so she's definitely more likable in the film than she is in the book. I definitely sort of rooted for her a little bit more, and empathise with her a little bit more in the film than I did in the book. However, the character is portrayed in a very similar way. There are two major characters that are portrayed in different ways between the book and the film, however. One of those is Mrs. Harris's kind of cleaning buddy. In the book, she is only referred to as Mrs. and then last name. I can't remember her exact last name. And then in the film, she is Vi, her friend, cleaning buddy, and you know, this person is obviously called upon to help Mrs. Harris out in certain situations, which I won't go into because no spoilers, but in the book she comes off as more of a like brusque kind of like London, tell it as it is, East End wifey kind of character, whereas in the film she comes across as she's a little bit more naive than Mrs. Harris. This person, I think, is obviously an immigrant to the UK and therefore doesn't have as much sort of ways of the world as Mrs. Harris does, and so her like sort of best friend character, her cleaning buddy, her like wingman, sidekick, Batman and Robin type of character between the book and the film are quite different. However, they both fill that same hole, and that both support the main character, even though they do so in different ways. And then we have the character of the manager of the House of Dior. So she is, you know, Mr. Dior's right-hand man. She runs the actual sort of building itself. She's in charge of making sure that the girls get there on time. She knows who's coming and going. She sends out the invitations to the fashion shows, etc., etc. Now, this is played by one of the actors we see in Emily in Paris, and she plays a very similar character in the film. Now, in the film, it takes her quite a long time to thaw, / her character never really warms to Mrs. Harris. Whereas in the book, that process is very different. That thawing happens fairly early on, and you feel like she's more on side with Mrs. Harris. Now, again, this isn't a spoiler because I'm not mentioning major events, but be prepared for her character to be frosty in the film and less frosty in the book. I think that the kind of thawing and frostiness and walls, barriers going down happens almost too quickly in the book. I felt like I was more enchanted by and believing in the character in the film than in the book, which I thought was quite interesting, because I didn't really like the character in the film, even though she has the same motivations behind being frosty as she does in the book. But in the book, I found her character to be sort of helpful and an aid to Mrs. Harris. As usual, when we have things being made into a movie, the things are sort of bigger and bolder and more intense in the movie because it's for the big screen, because we have to take those words off the page and we have to make them for a more general audience, and we have to make things happen in a quicker period of time. This is a normal length film. It's not super long, even though the book itself is quite short. And so the sort of romance of Paris is bigger and brighter, and the kind of tragedy of things that go in and out of Mrs. Harris's life is bigger and brighter, and the drama that happens towards the end when we think everything is going to be okay and then we know it's not, which always happens in this kind of film, is bigger and bolder and more dramatic. And so those things are kind of almost like a given with a book versus movie. However, the rest of the book and movie stick along fairly the same lines, along the same path. The moments in the book reflect the same things that happen in the film and vice versa. And so aside from those major differences that I've already mentioned, I think that this is a really nice adaptation. I would say, you know, again, the last one that I made of these, I said I preferred the film to the book. I would say again that I would prefer the film to the book. I would go and see this film again in cinemas because it was just so lovely and so heartwarming, and just the whole cinema laughed at things, and we came out and we just felt lovely, and we felt like, you know, some good had happened in the world and some good had happened to this character. Whereas I wouldn't necessarily reread the book again, and I didn't finish the book and go, oh, that was a lovely story, it was so heartwarming. I just went, okay, well, that's finished, now I can watch the film. And so therefore I definitely do prefer the film over the book. I know, I hope you were sitting down for that one. It's happened again. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed my comparisons. As I say, highly recommend the film. As a movie review, I do recommend paying your cinema going money to go and see this one, because I thought it was really lovely, and it's kind of a film that we all need right now. And yes, as always, if there is a particular movie or book to movie you would like me to read and watch, or go and watch and review for you this week, do let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, do give it a thumbs up. Make sure you are subscribed and hit that notification bell so that my bookish content for you in the week does not pass you by. And yeah, I will be back with another video for you very soon, so I will see you then. Thanks for watching.